Good evening, friends. Welcome into night 2 of the 2025 NFL Draft. Phil Perry alongside the Senator is going to be our point guard, getting us set up with every single pick the Patriots could possibly be making. We're going to be with you through this first pick of the second round. There's only one in the second round, and then we'll stand down. Make sure that you're watching the Celtics over on your main screen on NBC Sports Boston, watching us on your second screen. And then, of course, we're going to come back with an on-the-clock special at 10:30 on NBC Sports Boston after all our Celtics coverage. Phil, Patriots already made hay in the first round, the 4th overall pick, Will Campbell. Let's take a look at the Patriots picks tonight, and then we'll look at your best available, because the Patriots are, still pretty well stocked, and they have plenty of fun needs to look at.
Fun needs. They do. And so they're going to pick at 38 overall here. And so we're going to have to wait for a few picks to come off the board first. And to me, what's most interesting about where the Patriots sit right now is trying to figure out what those teams ahead of them are looking for. Because I think, Tom, it could actually be some of the same stuff that the Patriots are looking for at 38. And so if there's going to be a little run at receiver before the Patriots pick at 38, of course, they have 69 in the third round as well as 77. That was the Matthew Judon trade pick. So 2 picks tomorrow. Maybe you could use a little ammo there, one of those extra picks in the third round. You could trade back up into the second round if you really wanted to, if you felt like there was an offensive lineman you wanted there or a running back you really wanted there, or you didn't get a receiver at 38 overall. But, Tom, I think there are going to be receivers that go and go fast. And my question is, do they have a preferred guy? And if they see that run on receivers coming the same way it came last year around this time, do they get aggressive and move up to try to get a guy that they really like the most out of what's left to them?
Let's take a look at the best available wide receivers. While that comes up, do you have a preferred guy on this list? Here's your best players available, and you see the Boston College edge rusher is Araku, and then 2 guys that we previewed with Brian Hoyer when we sat down and talked to him about the wideouts. We talked about Knoll, we talked about Higgins, we also talked about Travion Henderson and Kyle Williams. Plus, if the Patriots wanted to double up, Phil, you mentioned it, OT right there, bam, and a couple more edge guys. Who's your preference?
Yeah, for me, I'm looking at receiver. I still feel as though you need to help Drake May. And so you got him, your left tackle. Now you have to give him a weapon. And so I'm looking at those first 2 receiver names. As talented as Donovan Ezeraku is, and I think he should be in consideration for sure if he's there at 38 overall. But then if you take him there, you, to me, have to get a lot more creative with how you're going to help your young quarterback thereafter. So I'm looking at those 2 Iowa State receivers. Hoyer did a great job breaking those guys down. 2 very different players. Jalen Knoll would be my preference. My understanding is there are people in the building who really like Jalen Knoll. 5'10", 195 pounds. You're going to see the speed right here, Tom. 4.39, 40-yard dash.
Can he get a contested ball? Yes, he can.
He sure can. I don't know how he caught that particular ball. That one is almost magic in nature to me. Jumped 41.5 inches in the vertical, Tom. Sub 7-second 3-cone drill. So he is really a well-rounded athlete. He's explosive and he can hit you deep down the field, but he also has that short area quickness and that burst to be able to run all those option routes that we know Josh McDaniels really likes from his slot receivers especially. And to me, he's thick enough at almost 200 pounds to do a lot of the blocking that Josh McDaniels is going to ask his guys to do. Julian Edelman, Jacoby Myers, these were bigger-bodied slot receivers. Everybody thinks that Julian Edelman is a smaller guy. He wasn't. He was just under 6 feet, and he was about 200 pounds. Very similar to Jalen Knoll. The difference would be Knoll has that vertical speed that a lot of slot receivers here in New England did not have. That's why I would have him at the top of the list of receivers.
All right, we're going to take a look right now at some of the picks at the teams picking ahead of the Patriots, who are, again, at 38. The Cleveland Browns are on the clock. They're still going through their preliminaries out there in Green Bay. So it's going to be a minute or 2. Patriots probably should pick, since there's 5 minutes on the clock throughout, I believe, in the second round, not 10.
No, yeah, you're right.
So just 5.
Yep. Clock's going to be running, baby.
So we could probably see the Patriots picking,
7 minutes.
5 times 7, 7 times 49. Okay, we're going to have a pick by 8. Okay, folks? Browns.
I'm holding you to that.
Texans, Titans, Browns again, then Raiders and Patriots at 38. Would you make a run up to get Knoll, Phil?
I actually would. I don't know if the Patriots would, because I think there are other players that they see as on the board that could help them score some points. And that's why you mentioned the word fun earlier. This has the potential to be a fun pick. You're talking about an explosive receiver potentially. Maybe it is Jaden Higgins, Jalen Knowles' teammate, who's a bigger-bodied guy, 6'4", 217 pounds. A very good athlete in his own right, especially for somebody with his frame. Ran a 4.4 740. That is excellent with that kind of size. I just don't think he necessarily plays to that speed all the time, Tom, but what he has going for him is he is versatile. He played both outside and in at Iowa State. They got really good offensive coaching. Matt Campbell's their head coach there, does a great job of getting these guys ready to play in the NFL. And maybe Higgins' most redeeming quality is his hands. He does not drop the football, a 2% drop rate for his career at Iowa State, and they were pumping him the football. So if you want somebody who's dependable, who can run some routes at a really good size, he's not necessarily going to be that guy that is threatening a safety. You need to make sure you have two bodies over the top at all times. He's not that. But he could do a little bit of everything, which Josh McDaniels likes, and he will catch everything, which everybody with the Patriots would like. So there's a real option there, and I like Travion Henderson. I know the Patriots do too. Travion Henderson is an explosive play machine out of the backfield.
Keeping you guys up to date so you don't have to click over and stay on the Celtics. The Browns are on the clock right now. We should allude to the fact that Shedeur Sanders remains on the board. Would that be a guy that you would say most likely between, as we showed you those picks, you get Cleveland, the Texans, the Titans, the Browns, and the Raiders. The Browns have 2 picks before the Patriots. I wouldn't be surprised to see Shedeur Sanders go to at least one of those teams. I don't think he'll be there when the Patriots pick, not like the Patriots are taking him anyway.
No, but you know what? I could see him continuing to slide. To me, if you're Cleveland, Tom, you made that trade yesterday with next year's draft in mind. So you added a first-round pick. Yes, you added a second-rounder this year, but you added a first-round pick, and you're going to be a bad football team again if you just keep the quarterback room the way it is right now with Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett vying for that starting job. You're going to be right in the market for the best quarterback in the league next year. And I don't know if you want to necessarily take one of those second-rounders and draft a passer who's only going to get in the way of whichever guy you draft early next year. I think if they really wanted somebody to be their starter of the now and the future, they would have taken him in the first round. And so, to me, I could see Shedeur Sanders continue to slide. If he goes off, that's great news for the Patriots, right? That's another slot that you don't have to worry about one of your guys, whether it's Henderson or Knoll or Higgins, coming off the board before you. But if we look at those teams again that are picking before the Patriots, a lot of receiver needs there. Cleveland is a receiver-needy team. Houston is a receiver-needy team. My understanding, offense is going to be the focus there as well. They've done a lot of work on offensive linemen. They've done a lot of work on receivers. They've got Tank Dell there who's dealt with injury. They have Nico Collins, but they could use some help there at that receiver position. So you're looking at, Tom, maybe 3 or 4 teams ahead of them that all need receivers. And so if they're dying to, for instance, go get Jalen Knoll with this second-round pick, if you want to make sure you get him, you might have to make a little move up.
What's also interesting about all these teams ahead of the Patriots, and again, Browns on the clock right now, then it'll go Texans, Titans, Browns again, then the Raiders. There is so much overlap between Mike Vrabel having been with the Titans, and I'm not sure how much carryover there would be in terms of players that they would be interested in under their new head coach and general manager, but Texans with Nick Caserio in the front office, similar style offense and principles that they would find valuable in players. The Browns, Vrabel was there. There's similarities there as well. And then the Raiders, they're going to have some overlap with the kind of players that they would want, just basically based on the guys who they have. I'm not saying that there's a Josh McDaniels influence that's still there, but it can hang for a bit. So your thoughts on that? And Tom Brady's in the ownership.
No question. So I think you're right. The types of guys they're looking for, they are, some of these teams are wired a little bit differently. Like I look at Cleveland, they're just so analytically driven. It probably drives their fan base berserk. They passed on what looks like a potentially generational player in the first round to move down and add draft capital and take a stubby arm defensive tackle. So maybe they actually move out. Maybe they want to move down and add even more picks, Tom, and maybe add more picks in the future. The one team I left out in our previous discussion about receiver-needy teams, the Tennessee Titans. They just drafted a quarterback first overall. Do they want to go that Joe Burrow route the way Cincinnati did years ago, where their first pick in the second round, right after taking Joe Burrow, was to draft T. Higgins? So do you give Cam Ward his number one target of the future? They have Calvin Ridley there, but they could certainly use another receiver there in Tennessee.
When we look at this, the Patriots have addressed left tackle. We watched free agency unfold, and clearly the Patriots had on their wish list, right out of the chutes, they had Ronnie Stanley and Chris Godwin. They got neither, both guys re-signed. Once that happened, you basically understood that this draft was going to be about filling the spots that they were unable to during free agency. Now, the Patriots entered free agency with the stated hope that they would be able to go into the draft without needs. They didn't achieve that. They got better on defense. They have a lot of spackle that they used for their football team. They need wallboard. They need drywall. They need foundational pieces that are going to give good return and not be dice rolls as to whether or not they're going to get to a second contract and be useful. You already have one in Jalen Polk, a second-round pick last year, who fit every profile. We sat here last year and did our post-draft summary and said Jalen Polk's everything you want. He's got that dog in him, and he's going to be somebody who's going to be where you need him to be when he's supposed to be there. He didn't turn out to be that way. Why those players didn't realize the potential the Patriots envisioned, Elliott Wolf kind of landed that at the feet to a degree of internal development, which is coaching. Tyler Hughes was the wide receivers coach last year. He's gone now. So that wide receiver room could be better. That would mean perhaps Jalen Polk could improve. Javon Baker could improve. But those guys are on thin ice because, Phil, go right down that depth chart at wide receiver and talk about those guys. There's going to be 5 guys who are going to dress on game day. You can basically talk about 4 spots that are going to be filled. A couple of these guys are coming back from injury and trying to deal with things, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you start with Stephon Diggs. As long as he's healthy, he looks like they're number 1 right now. Matt Collins is going to be in uniform because they just gave him real money. I would think Kendrick Bourne is going to have a real role. He just had his best season a few years ago under Josh McDaniels. McDaniels is back. That, to me, makes a lot of sense. Pop Douglas and your draft pick. That, to me, is 5. And if you take somebody like Knoll, even though he's a different type of player in terms of his physical skill set, you're probably using him over Pop Douglas. But that, to me, would be the 5. And there's some good news for the Patriots, Tom, here with the first pick off the board to the Browns.
Right. Linebacker Carson Schlesinger from UCLA. He will go to the Browns. Pick is in already, according to the NFL.com draft tracker pick already. Too bad we don't have Albert here to just announce them as they go. He probably has the entire second round already. Pick is in for the Houston Texans. So we're going to learn that very quickly. So we're already heading up towards number 35 in short order.
Here we go. Keep these picks moving. But I say it's good news for the Patriots for Carson Schlesinger to go off because that's not a position that you would have been interested in. They may have been interested in the player. I've talked to coaches who love this guy, Tom. Love him. He is the ultimate football guy's guy. Football guy. So that's not a receiver that goes to the Browns. We think is a receiver-needy team. But it looks like, and it sounds like, Tom, a receiver is going to another receiver-needy team in Houston.
Yeah, it's your guy Jaden Higgins, who you mentioned. So Knoll slips past one receiver-needy team, the Houston Texans. They're going to take Jaden Higgins, who we talked about extensively with Brian Hoyer. What are they getting? What are the Patriots, quote-unquote, missing out on and not getting him?
Yeah, they're not getting the size option here. It's rare to find a guy, Tom, who's 6'4", who can really run routes. And that's what Jaden Higgins can do. And that's why he's worthy of this spot. I actually think he would have been worthy of a late first-round kind of pick because the coordination that this guy has, you can tell he was a high-level basketball player in high school because, number one, the hands are tremendous. And number two, the coordination to be able to run some of these routes, slants and goes, digs over the middle. He has really good footwork for somebody with this kind of frame. You can obviously use him in those traditional sort of quote-unquote X-receiver types of spots. Big body in the red zone, you could chuck it to. Third down, he's going to be a go-to guy because he has such great hands. To me, the reason why I would prefer his teammate over him and why, again, I would rather see him come off the board if I'm a Patriots fan than Jalen Knoll is I think the Patriots just need more juice. And even though Jaden Higgins ran a 4.47, he's fast enough, he's not the speed threat that Knoll is that I think the Patriots really need. He's very solid, and it's actually a really interesting pairing to put him with Nico Collins, who's another big-bodied guy. Collins is a better athlete, in my opinion. But to me, if you're the Patriots, I would take speed over size here. And those are really the defining traits for the 2 Iowa State receivers.
All right, we have a trade now. The Seahawks have come on the clock now, so they have traded with the Titans, according to Robbie Buckets, who's quarterbacking us.
Interesting.
Right here. And Tom Pelissero. Buckets, I was wondering where that came from.
Buckets credit. It's okay.
Buckets, good job. So he's aggregating, and he's doing a great job throwing up all the video as we go. Phil, I'll ask you this question. Not who is Seattle going to target, because that's a little bit of a bridge too far. We can get Mike Sando on the line. We're not going to do that. Phil, what if Jalen Knoll is gone? Who would the Patriots' next best option be? You got all your eggs in that basket right now, Phil. I'm going to be candid. You've been talking about this kid for 4 weeks.
I have been. I know.
If he's gone,
I can't help it.
Then what are you going to do? Here's your best available, if you could throw this up, Robbie, during this answer.
So, yeah, number one, I find the trade interesting because, and again, maybe good news for the Patriots, Not that Seattle wouldn't take a receiver. They just traded away DK Metcalf. So you could argue they have a need there.
Boy.
But they already have a true number one in Jackson Smith and Jigba, and maybe he needs a running mate. Okay. I would look at that trade as a receiver-needy team in Tennessee getting out. And so maybe this is going to be something else. They just took a lineman. They took Gray Zabel in the first round. They could go offensive line again. The interior of that offensive line has been a mess in Seattle the last couple of years. So maybe this is somebody like Tate Ratledge, the interior offensive lineman from Georgia. Big body, freaky athlete. I think he could end up being a second-round pick. So that would be an interesting fit there. If they don't get Jalen Noel, if the Patriots don't get Jalen Noel, you're right, Tom. Let's prepare for this scenario.
I will interject one real quick thing,
Yes.
too, is Tyler Lockett, having signed with the Titans, too, he goes out of Seattle, so that's a guy you've comped to Jalen Noel, too.
Yes. Yeah, similar games there. So if they want their next Tyler Lockett and they like what he brought to the table in his prime, maybe Jalen Noel is their guy. If he's gone, I would be giving a long, hard look, and I believe the Patriots would as well, at Travion Henderson, the running back from Ohio State.
So when Phil says things like that, I believe, and the Patriots would as well, that's what we call in the business an informed opinion. Okay, I sensed that in the way he delivered that.
That might be informed.
It felt informed. So to me, if not Jalen Noel, who Seattle now is on the clock, they missed out. They did not re-sign Tyler Lockett, who I loved in 2016.
You did. That was one of your greatest draft calls of all time.
Yep.
You got to give me credit where it's due.
But if that is a play that Seattle makes right here, the move to add.
Oh, baby, we got news coming in from Buckets. Did you hear?
No,
what
I didn't.
The pick is? It is not Jalen Noel. So it's South Carolina safety Nick Emenwari, and I'm now seeing multiple reports saying that is in fact the case. Again, this is a win for the Patriots. Now he is a great player, in my opinion. He is a freak athlete. He would have been, if you're looking for defensive help, that's a fun pick. There's that word again, that three-letter word. That's a fun pick if you're the Seattle Seahawks or their fans. Like, you're looking at this guy. He is maybe a more athletic Cam Chancellor.
Oh, boy.
I mean, he is big. He is fast. You could even think about moving him to corner. He is that kind of athlete. I mean, he's running in the 4.3s and just has this massive frame for any defensive backfield. So for Mike McDonald, defensive-minded head coach, you could play with him. You can move him all over the field. Baltimore has had a lot of success where McDonald came from, has had a lot of success with Kyle Hamilton, who in terms of his role would be sort of a similar type of defender. But again, this is good news, Tom, for the New England Patriots. Donovan Ezeraku from BC still on the board. Jalen Noel, my guy, still on the board. Travion Henderson still on the board. The Patriots are going to have a real opportunity to add what I would consider a game-changing type of player at 38 overall.
And they're only 2 picks away. They have the Cleveland Browns to wait on here, and also the Las Vegas Raiders. Tom Brady's Las Vegas Raiders are ahead of them, and then the Patriots will be on the clock. We're cooking. We're cooking with gas. It's 7:18. It just turned, and we already have the first 3 picks of the round are off the board.
Where would you want to go? Can I ask you that? Even if it's just position-wise, Tom, you're looking at the board. We all understand they need to continue to surround Drake May with real talent here. Are you looking receiver first and foremost, or is it another lineman? Is it a running back? I mean, we know what Josh McDaniels has done with these pass-catching running backs in the past. That's why I think Travion Henderson is a real option here.
When I look at the offensive line improvement that has gone on in the offseason, and you guys are going to say, what the hell are you talking about, improvement? They haven't done much. Morgan Moses is a guy who starts 17 games all the time, even though he's 34 years old, and he's going to be a culture leader. You have him at right tackle. At right guard, you're going to have Mike Onwenu, who, as we heard from Bill O'Brien last night, when he's engaged, I thought that was interesting verbiage by Billy O, too.
Very interesting.
When he's engaged, he's one of the best guards in football. You call him one of the 5 best guards in football? Yeah,
it was high praise.
Let's go. Quinshon Judkins, according to our guy, Robbie Buckets, Ohio State running back. He played in the same backfield as Travion Henderson, different kind of back. So he is going to go to the Browns at number 36. That means just the Raiders and then the Patriots will be on the clock. So we're creeping closer to what could be a fun pick for the Patriots at either wide receiver or running back. Who would be the guy if they decide to go dull? I was talking about offensive line. You have Onwenu, then you have Garrett Bradbury, who's a longtime starter in the league at center. Then you're going to have Cole Strange and Layden Robinson, at least as of right now, fighting it out. Then you're going to have Will Campbell at the left tackle spot. You need depth. Morgan Moses is 34. You could go tackle and say we're going to start to build on the right-hand side of our offensive line. You can look at Mike Onwenu And the Patriots should be scrutinizing all their contracts and all the performances of players as Mike Vrabel comes in. I think they definitely have, and say, okay, do we want to take another guard here and try and start shoring up that spot? Looks like you're shaking your head a little.
Just to me,
the guard value isn't there right now.
Yeah, given the way the board has fallen and given what's still available, I think you'd be waiting on a guard at this point.
Interior line, then guard, center, Drew Kendall, I keep thinking about too, as our guy. Who's the dude that we had on from Minnesota? Our fun guy.
Ariante Ursary.
No, our fun guy.
Thor.
Yeah. We had Thor. Thor came on with us. Thor Nystrom. He mentioned Drew Kendall from Norwell and Boston College as being a guy that he has rated as the second best center in the draft. That could be a guy that they could get later on.
A little bit later. Yeah, I would say maybe one of the top interior offensive linemen, if you really want to think about that here, tonight, would be Jared Wilson, who's a center out of Georgia. 21 years old, early declare, excellent athlete, a 4'8", 40 at over 300 pounds. He's considered really smart, just a one-year starter at Georgia, but really smart, really athletic. Patriots have Garrett Bradbury, so they're good for this year, but they're not good for the long haul at that position. Would they transition from David Andrews to eventually another Georgia center? That would be an interesting pick tonight, and it would satisfy the do whatever you can to help Drake May corollary that I think they're approaching day one and day two of the draft with.
So again, just to recap right now, we have Carson. It's a tough one.
Swessinger.
No, it's just the S at the end of Carson, and then the double S starting with the Schwesh. And I'm, it's a, she sells seashells down by the seashore. So C. Swess has gone to the Browns at 33. Jaden Higgins, wide receiver, Iowa State, has gone to Houston. Nick Amenwari has gone to Seattle. He's a safety. Quinshon Judkins will be going to the Cleveland Browns at 36. Raiders will soon be on the clock after the Browns pick is announced, and then the Patriots will be up. So looking at that, if it's not Travion Henderson, that means the Patriots are going to still be looking for that pace back, that speed back, that space back, that third down back you can get out on a linebacker to run option routes in the Josh McDaniels offense, the way Shane Vereen and James White and Kevin Falk and even Danny Woodhead used to do. So who would be later on a running back if Travion Henderson is gone by the time the Patriots look at third round?
Is gone, or maybe you're just, if you're the Patriots, you're looking at the board and you're saying, gosh, this is one of the deepest running back classes we've seen in years. Are we really going to spend our second round pick on a running back when, if we want, for instance, our right tackle of the future, do we have to get him right now? Should we go ahead and do that? Because there's only a handful of names. If we have my best available, I've got 3 tackles there, and they're all still available. One's Ariante Ursary, who's the left tackle from Minnesota. One is Charles Grant, who's the left tackle from William and Mary, just a freak athlete. And my God, Tom, I don't know if you've seen the highlight reel for Charles Grant, and I'm going to have Buckets bring it up in a second. The other tackle will be Ozzie Trapilla. Those guys, I think, are going to go fast because there's just not that many tackles left, and there are a lot of teams that still need tackles. Charles Grant would be a lot of fun on day 2 at some point for the Patriots because he might be sort of a developmental option because he's coming from a smaller level of competition. But when you watch this guy play against a smaller level of competition and some smaller bodies, Tom, he's tossing them into the front row on a regular basis. It's embarrassing, which I love, and I think football people would love too. And we've seen tackles come from smaller schools. Teron Armstead, who just retired, is a good example.
Gray Zabel went in the first round.
Gray Zabel, but guys who've had success at tackle in the NFL, they don't all come from Ohio State and Michigan. So he's somebody who would be athletic enough to sort of take over for Morgan Moses eventually at right tackle. I would say same deal with Ozzie Trapilla.
I'm not sure if we have any Charles Grant video. If you do, Buckets, throw it up. Meanwhile, I want to show you this. This is from my pal George Williamson. And George Williamson, he's the Cadres, an 85-year-old Navy veteran. And he sends me each year a handwritten cover letter.
Unbelievable.
And then all his picks and breakdowns for every round.
He has grades as well.
Grades, school, the numbers, the pertinent information. The reason I bring the Codger up right now is Marcus Mbow from Purdue, 6'5", 300. That is who the Codger says should be selected ASAFP.
I love it.
Why should Marcus Mbow not be taken ASAFP? Or why should he be? Why is the Codger correct?
Well, I really like him, and I've had him going to the Patriots in mock drafts previously. Some of our seven round mock drafts, and the Raiders are trading down, by the way, with Miami. So the Miami Dolphins want to make sure they get ahead of the New England Patriots. Would they be taking Jalen Noel? Is Tyreek Hill out in Miami, Tom?
Oh,
And
he's given every indication. He's on the.
Is this their next version of Tyreek Hill?
No.
An undersized receiver who's going to live off 4.3 speed at the NFL level? I mean, he's not that fast. Like, let's be real when we talk about Jalen Noel. As much as I like him, he's not athletically what Tyreek Hill is. But in terms of roles and how you'd use him, a guy you could give a jet sweep to, a guy you could send down the field, a guy you could throw too short and see what he can do after the catch because he's such an explosive athlete. I wonder if they would be willing to make that selection here, understanding that their future with Tyreek Hill might not be going that far into the future.
That being the case, if the Patriots do not get Jalen Noel here, we saw last year the Patriots traded down away from Lab McConkey, and they see him have an unbelievable rookie season, and the receiver that they did take was a disappointment, Jalen Polk. So the potential is here for the Patriots to do some rock kicking if Jalen Noel ends up being the player you're thinking of.
Our buddy Albert Breer is reporting the pick is going to be Jonah Savania from Arizona, who's an interior offensive lineman. He played tackle at Arizona, but he's projected to be a guard. Again, I would say the board is falling nicely for the Patriots right now.
I'm adjusting because I'm getting excited for you.
Jonah Savania. And listen, is it Travion Henderson? Is it Donovan Ezeraku? Is it Jalen Noel? All three would be really good and fun options. I think they're really good players. They're all certainly worthy of being taken at this point in the draft. It'll be interesting to see where they ultimately go. I do think it's going to be offense, though, Tom. Everything I heard yesterday, today, is this draft is about helping Drake May. And so, maybe you make an adjustment because a first-round caliber player in Donovan Ezeraku is available to you, and so you have to adjust as the board falls a certain way, unpredictably so at times. But I still would be looking offense here, and I'd be looking for a weapon. After you got your protector yesterday, get the kid somebody to throw to, whether it's out of the backfield, and Travion Henderson can be your explosive version of James White, or it's Jalen Noel who can be your more explosive version, maybe of Julian Edelman. And that almost sounds sacrilegious because Julian Edelman was such a productive, and say with James White, productive, dependable kinds of players. But these guys have real juice, real time speed kind of juice that could help make this offense much more explosive.
It's really fascinating. Patriots are on the clock right now, and you're going to have a situation where all of these players are available. Phil's best available. Can we toss them up one more time as we prepare for the Patriots to add, again, the second pick of the Mike Vrabel, Ryan Cowden tenure? All right. So we just got a little buckets over talk. Here they come. Here they come. Boy, there's some good players there. Ezeraku, edge. Let's talk about the Patriots' edge situation right now and the defensive line situation as we kill time and see whether or not Jalen Noel comes here. Right now, they have Harold Landry at one end. They have Keon White at the other end. They have Christian Barmore potentially and hopefully inside alongside Milton Williams. They have on paper a tremendous front. Buckets, get me off of your directions.
You're talking to us. I don't know what a hot six is, but I want to know. I'm dying to know.
Buckets just called up a hot
six.
Can we get him off a hot six?
Is he ordering dinner right now? The Patriots are about to pick Buckets. Good gracious.
The Patriots' edge situation with Ezeraku sitting there. How good is Ezeraku?
I think he's really good, and I think he's a first-round caliber player. The knock on Ezeraku is his ability to play with power. He is unbelievably talented as a rusher. Sub-7 second three-cone, bigger-bodied guy. Very similar in terms of his frame, and it's not just because they both went to BC. Very similar to Harold Landry when it comes to quickness and size. For Ezeraku, I think teams want to see on first and second down, can he hold up against tackles, or are teams just going to run at him relentlessly? Is he just a third-down sub-rusher at this stage, and can he develop into something more than that? This guy who played a lot of football at the college level, maybe they feel like his ceiling is closer to being reached than some other players, i.e. Abdul Carter. The knock on Abdul Carter coming into this year's draft for a lot of teams was he's not great against the run right now, but the pass rush stuff is so elite and the ceiling is still so high that you go ahead and you take him in the top 5, and it makes all the sense in the world. For Ezeraku, that ceiling isn't there, but Tom, the skill set in terms of the ability to get to the quarterback as a pass rusher is really refined. And guys who sack the quarterback, generally speaking, in college, figure out ways to do it in the NFL, and it's obviously an incredibly valuable skill set. So I'm surprised he's still there for them at 38 if they want him.
What will it mean to the wide receiver room and Jalen Polk and Keyshawn Booty if they do go Jalen Knoll here. And Phil is investigating, keeping his eye on his phone, as am I. If we get any intel on that, we'll let you know ASAP. How will it shake things up for Jalen Polk? I mean, as good as gone. I mean, Javon Baker is supposed to be a downfield receiver. But there's a lot of overlap if it is Knoll with Jalen Polk.
I think so, just because even though they're very different players, he is way faster than Jalen Polk, but they would be similar in that Polk is supposed to be the kind of guy who does his best work on the interior, sort of a bigger slot. A lot of the comps last year when the Patriots drafted Jalen Polk were Jacoby Myers. And Jacoby Myers was a slot in Josh McDaniels' offense. Jalen Knoll would be a slot for the most part in Josh McDaniels' offense, but he would just give them something a little bit more. So again, think of the role Julian Edelman played, where he was not always on the inside. He played some outside as well, and he was always very ready to teach us that in the media if we forgot or we pigeonholed him as being solely a slot receiver. And Josh McDaniels would tell you the same thing. That could be Knoll. Knoll can play on the inside because he's quick enough to do it. He can play on the outside because he's fast enough to do it. He can win down the field. He can win in the short area. To me, anybody who plays inside right now for the New England Patriots, not named Stephon Diggs, that means Pop Douglas, that means Jalen Polk, your role would be significantly reduced if Knoll is the pick here, in my opinion.
If the Patriots take Jalen Knoll here in the second round, it would be yet another announcement that Elliott Wolf had a disastrous first year. And he would have to sit there and watch a wide receiver taken the year after he decided to use a second-round pick and pass on Ladd McConkey and take Jalen Polk. Would that again announce that Elliott Wolf has been really reduced in terms of importance, as we would presume?
Yeah, it's not great for Elliott Wolf's resume. There's no question about that. To me, it has to be an acknowledgement of the reality of the situation, which is you're just not talented enough there, and it's clear. And so you could throw away another year, but that's the risk, is you're throwing away another year with a guy who's not incredibly physically talented in Jalen Polk, Tom, that you're just hoping comes around when it comes to motivation and attitude and intangibles. And I'm not sure that's a bet you'd be willing to make if you're Mike Vrabel in this new coaching staff.
The other important thing is, too, the age of some of the guys in this wide receiver room. The pick is in for the Patriots. Check out, it's going to be Travion Henderson.
There you go.
So the running back. It's not Jalen Knoll. I was really getting my heart set on him, but there is a lot to like about Travion Henderson, who Brian Hoyer did a tremendous job of breaking down on our wide receivers and weapons podcast we did a little bit ago. But we're going to take a look at some Travion Henderson clips when we get them up. But initial reaction to the draft of Travion Henderson from Ohio State.
This is a pick that is going to make Drake May's life a lot easier. He is explosive, Tom, as all get out. 4.40 40 kind of speed, 38.5-inch vertical, 10'8" broad jump. He is a ridiculous athlete at the position. 5'10", 200 pounds, so he's big enough. And you're going to watch him. He has very sure hands. When you get him in a screen sort of situation, he has the ability to do this, take it to the house anytime he touches the football. He was able to do that for the national champions. My guess is he'll be able to do that at the NFL level as well. There are some questions about his durability, dealt with a little bit of injury. And again, he's not the biggest human being on the planet. And so you're not going to ask him, in my opinion, to be a 3-down back out of the chutes as an NFL player, but he doesn't have to be here in New England. You have Ramondre Stevenson, you have Antonio Gibson. Those guys are bigger bodied, 220-plus pound kinds of backs. This guy is your complement. He is your receiver out of the backfield. He is the kind of player that Josh McDaniels has turned into an incredibly productive option for a long, long time here in New England. And Tom, I would say maybe outside of Dion Lewis, who at his height was a ridiculous athlete in his own right, this is the most physically talented running back Josh McDaniels has had when it comes to this particular role, which I would say is a sub-back, speed back, pace back, whatever you want to call it, kind of complementary third down back role. The other thing about this player that you should love, that the Patriots love, I know, he is a freaking menace in pass protection, Tom. And so that's one area where you're not going to have to worry about him. He's coming from an advanced NFL-style offense, right? Chip Kelly's offense. And so he understands protections. And when he's asked to do it, he excels. He doesn't just die slow. That's what a lot of running backs are asked to do when they're asked to pass protect. Just give the quarterback an extra half second. He is taking the violence to the pass rushers, to your linebackers, to your defensive ends, and he is trying to bury them. He is trying to embarrass them, and he does. And there's tape of it. He's been used as a lead blocker at times for quarterback runs, which you could see happening with Drake May here in New England if Josh McDaniels wants to get creative in that way. So this is a really fun pick. This is another pick to help Drake May out, give him a security blanket out of the backfield who has electricity to his game that not many running backs do.
All right, we have some live chat information from Buckets. He said you guys love the pick, which is great. We appreciate you guys being out there. We get a round of applause from all you guys. I can hear you. Very polite clapping. Not the kind of hooting and hollering you see from the New York Jets fans.
It sounds
nice,
like
polite clapping.
Yeah, like
from
a
them.
tennis tournament.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's in. He was a round 2 projection by Lance Zierlein. He had a comp to Aaron Jones. Some more stuff on Travion Henderson. As I watch him run, you mentioned Dion Lewis. He has a build and a suddenness, a lateral suddenness that reminds me of Kevin Falk. And Josh McDaniels spent an inordinate amount of time with Kevin Falk in his time coming up in the period of time where Falk, really was here until 2011. Through that first Super Bowl. He didn't play in that one, but when you look at Kevin Falk, he was an absolute beast in blitz pickup. 5'8", a little more stout, 5'8", 200, probably not as escaping. And he was a 3-down back, too, as a smaller player. At LSU, he set every SEC record Kevin Falk did as a running back. So I'll be interested to hear Mike Vrabel weigh in on any similarities, if there are, to a player like Kevin Falk. Just to give you a quick synopsis from Lance Zierlein, NFL.com. Henderson is capable of starting on 3rd downs or biting off a bigger chunk as a 3-down option. Average size, above average juice with good acceleration. Average decision maker inside, not overly creative once confronted by the defense, but has the pacing and subtle shiftiness to excel as an outside runner. Might be the best pass protecting running back in this draft, as Phil pointed out. Henderson isn't and more than capable as a pass catcher. Henderson isn't Jahmyr Gibbs, but he can operate in a similar role for teams looking to add a more dynamic player to their running back room. Let's talk about that running back room right now. Ramondre Stevenson, Antonio Gibson, and now the complement that you have in Travion Henderson. The Patriots in 2018, when they won their last Super Bowl, they did it on the strength of their very, very complementary running game with Sony Michel as their every down back. You had Dion Lewis as the pace back, but you also had Rex Burkhead as your toggle back and forth
don't
back.
forget about James White, who I believe set a record in the postseason that year in the divisional round against
Lewis was out after
against the Chargers.
Thank you.
So that is going to be, in my opinion, that will be his role. You're not going to ask him to replace Ramondre Stevenson or Antonio Gibson, although both guys, to me, are not necessarily like locks to be big-time impact players for the Patriots moving forward. But his build is what it is. He's 5'10", 200 pounds. That, to me, is not an every down back. You're asking for trouble. But to me, again, especially in this offense, think about just all the production the Patriots have had out of pass-catching backs in the past, to be able to spread things out, to be able to hand it to him at times. I don't want to make him out to be only a pass-catching back, because you can hand it to him. He is so athletic and so explosive that if you can give him a crease and get him to the second level, he has a very good chance of making somebody miss and taking it another 10, 15, 20 yards. So I really like this pick. You and I were joking earlier on Early Edition tonight about don't get cute here. Don't get cute here. When I was a big proponent of fun, there's a difference between cute and fun. Cute to me is going off the radar to do something a little weird. This guy was predicted by some to be a first-round pick. So you're not getting cute. You're playing chestnut checkers, as our friend Mark the Beetle Bertrand likes to say. This is a keep it simple, stupid kind of pick. A guy this talented at this position to help your young quarterback falls to you. Go ahead and take him. And yes, to me, you still need another receiver, but maybe you can get that guy a little bit later and you can pick up some speed a little bit later. There are some really fast, bigger bodied options that I think are going to be available even on day 3. You go ahead and you get a running back like this, and it could make a big impact in your offense.
A couple of the interesting aspects of him as a player, too, and as a guy. One director of scouting in the NFC told Lance Zierlein they love him in that program. He's unselfish, really productive, can play on all three downs, and is about the team first. So, again, a culture fit just like Will Campbell for Mike Vrabel's budding program here in New England. So, to me, I find it interesting. Again, what does it tell us about the leadership in New England? What direction are they going in? Ramondre Stevenson got a fat contract last year coming off a down year. And we all ascribed it to, hey, he's got no time to make a move back there. He's getting hit the second he gets the ball. It's a wonder he even has positive yardage. But the 7 fumbles that he committed last year were definitely strikes against him in terms of how this regime is going to evaluate him. So we look at this, and we look at this program fit as well with Will Campbell, with now Travion Henderson, with your Bobby Spillanes, with your Milton Williams, your Morgan Moses, those kinds of players. They seem to be staple players. Garrett Bradbury, too. So, I mean, you have outliers. I don't know how Stephon Diggs will do. I have a hunch that Diggs will meet them halfway. Luther Burden is the pick going to the Bears. So that's a wide receiver off the board. So Jalen Noel's still sitting there. Jalen Noel's still sitting there.
And maybe, listen, he's a smaller guy. And he's not a perfect prospect. As much as I like his game, he will not force missed tackles. If you're looking for somebody who's going to give you a ton after the catch, that's not going to be Jalen Noel. So maybe he'll be available a little bit later, and the Patriots can have their cake and eat it too. I do want to give you a couple more notes on Travion Henderson, Tom, that I think you're really going to like. I think Patriots fans are really going to like. 2 fumbles in 4 years. 2. And this is a guy who was incredibly productive and was used all the time. He's 5th on Ohio State's all-time rushing yards list. He's 7 yards behind Eddie George. So for him to have the number of carries that he had and just not, plain and simple, not fumble, those are the little things that you know Josh McDaniels, coming from that Bill Belichick school, Mike Vrabel, of course, any football coach is going to really love. So those little things, not fumbling. He was a team captain last year. It sounds like he was, even though he was a star of the team already, when Ohio State was considering adding Quinshon Judkins, who transferred, I believe, from Ole Miss, that could ruffle some feathers, right? If you're the established back and you want to go and add a star back in the transfer portal coming from the SEC, that might not go well for a lot of people. But apparently he was really open to the idea. They ended up splitting the workload, and both guys just ended up as high second-round picks. So it worked out, but it just tells you the kind of, hey, do whatever's best for the team here, coach. If you have to add a guy at my position in the portal, go ahead and do it. I'll be just fine. I think you have to like that attitude.
If you're going to play devil's advocate here and say, well, now you got a short arm tackle and a third down back, what's the counter to that?
Big, long defensive ends that could not only get into the chest of a tackle, but maybe even jar a running back as he's getting out of the backfield to try to free and get himself open.
I guess what's the counter to the Felger line of thinking, which will be, oh, goody, you just got a short arm running back, short arm tackle, and now a third down back. How's that make you better immediately? You just got a couple of, broken toys.
You're going to make me talk to Felger when I don't actually have to talk to Felger?
Fair enough. He likes to pick. He likes to pick.
Listen, I think Felger probably would be for this. I feel like he likes pass-catching running backs. I feel like that has been part of his MO over time. They can be really productive if they're sure-handed and they're not going to fumble. The one, to me, the qualm with this pick would be, yeah, but you could have had another talented running back in like the 4th round. Mm-hmm. It's that good a class. I would say this is why he was on our list of best available players, and why I believed that they would be really interested in him in the 2nd round is he is that much better. He is that much easier projection because of the level of competition that he's coming from and because of what he's put on tape. And those little things that make him quote unquote safe, the ball security, the pass protection. Some other players in this class that are really talented, Bashal Tutin, who we talked about very briefly in an early edition from Virginia Tech. He's a little undersized, incredible speed, 4.3 speed, home run type of hitting running back, fumbles all the time. So these other backs, while talented, have warts that Travion Henderson, in my opinion, does not.
All right, let's take a look at the Patriots' remaining picks when you can. Also, buckets. I wonder if you can queue up, and it's okay if you can't. It's a late ask. But is there any way we can queue up and run for the folks out there some of the Brian Hoyer stuff from the Next Pats podcast that we had? That was we got shaken off immediately by buckets. That won't happen. But we will post that for you. So make sure you watch our social media. And at the end of the night, when we put out our podcast recapping all of this, we will make sure to add in the Travion Henderson breakdown by Brian Hoyer. But now the Patriots have taken in at 38 Travion Henderson. Next pick will be 69th. And then they'll go 77th. So
we have a quarterback off the board here, Tom. Tyler Shuck.
Shucks.
Tyler Shuck is going to New Orleans. So now how many quarterbacks have gone ahead of Shedeur Sanders? It's several. So his slide
4?
continues.
3.
And the Saints are able to add a passer. Yes, so Shuck, Dart, and Ward.
Cam Ward. So 3. We 3. But we see those different picks coming up. Do you imagine that some of those best availables could still be hanging around in 30 picks?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's totally possible, especially when the Patriots focus. I think we'll continue to be on offense. I'm still looking at receiver. I'm still looking at offensive line. And there are other teams that don't have, for instance, the defensive side of the ball as well stocked maybe as the Patriots do. And it's not as though the Patriots couldn't improve. Pass rusher for sure. Donovan Ezeraku, by the way, still on the board, which surprises me. Widely projected to go in the teens in the first round. Now we're creeping up on a full round later than that. The tackle position is one that would be interesting to me if there was an opportunity for the Patriots to move up. Would they consider it? Would they consider it just because there is such a dearth of talent at that position, and there are so many teams who need it, that if you sit there at the top of the third round and say, well, we'll hope Ozzie Trapillo falls to us, and he might, or we hope Charles Grant falls to us at 77 overall. He might. But other teams need those positions too. And I know teams like the Bengals and the Texans have done a lot of work on Ozzie Trapillo. The Texans pick again here a little bit later in the second round. Does he end up going mid to late second? Because there's just not that many of them available. And he's 6'8", and he's a damn good athlete, and he's a clean prospect on the field and off. Those are the types of things that I would be considering now if I'm New England. Do we have to move up to make sure we get every offensive piece that we want for Drake May during this 3-day Christmas morning, is the way I've termed it for the Patriots' second-year quarterback this weekend.
Any under-the-radar spots on defense that you perceive as being needs? I look at safety. You have Jabril Peppers. You have Kyle Duggar, who's extremely highly paid. I would assume he's going to have a much better year this year than last. Marte Mapu, you don't know how this regime is going to feel about him as a safety/linebacker. They did bring in Marcus Epps, as a free safety type. They also have, who's that dude who was here? Jalen Hawkins. Back, yes. So Jalen Hawkins, there were times he was relevant last year. But I look at safety as being a spot that they could think about. I also look at linebacker. I'm not sure exactly where Jelani Tavai and his arc will be with the Patriots. One other spot I'd think about, too, is defensive tackle. Because, yeah, Christian Barmore was a beast, and you're paying him a lot of money, but there is the doubt that exists, too, as to how well is he going to come back from the health situation last year. Again, knock on wood, rooting for that to be a non-issue going forward completely, as it was for David Andrews. I don't know if it's non-issue completely, but he could play football afterward. So do you see any of those positions as being, as I say, under the radar needs that you might address in round 3?
Yeah, I mean, I really do look at interior of the defensive line just because of the Barmore situation. And I also look there in this draft in particular because it's considered one of the deepest positions in this year's draft. So guys that, in my opinion, will go on day 2 that would be real fits for a defensive head coach in Mike Vrabel and a defensive coordinator in Terrell Williams who want violent players. Shamar Turner out of Texas A&M fits that bill. He's not a massive human being. He's closer to 300 pounds than 320 or 330, but he could get after quarterbacks and he could play the run, a violent hands type of interior defensive lineman. Darius Alexander from Toledo is a really interesting player, coming from a smaller level of competition. He's 25 years old, or he will be 25 years old when he lands in a team's training camp later in August. So that's a difficult evaluation, but another really athletic, good burst at the line kind of player. Omar Norman Lott, Tom, is another one who is a fiend as a pass rushing interior defensive lineman, but only played about 90 snaps, actually slightly less than 90 snaps against the run this past season. So he was a very niche player for the Volunteers last year. But those are guys at defensive tackle that I could see the Patriots being interested in if they wanted some Christian Barmore insurance.
All right. We're up to pick number 41 now. Buffalo Bills are on the clock as Phil mentioned. Tyler Shuff off the board, quarterback from Louisville. He is going to New Orleans. The Bills and the Jets, two AFC East rivals, are coming up next to bring you to the midpoint of the second round, really. Or getting close to the midpoint. Niners, Cowboys, Colts, Rams, Cardinals are also going to be on the board in the near future. We were going just through this second round pick at 38, which Patriots used to take Travion Henderson from Ohio State, the running back. They've taken Will Campbell, LSU. They've taken Travion Henderson from the Big Ten. So you got two big program players who are high-character guys. Travion Henderson, the team captain last year as well. So, to me, the Patriots have done what they intended to do. They got culture guys. They've helped Drake May.
No question. And it shouldn't stop there. Another offensive lineman and another receiver. Those, to me, should be the priorities moving forward. It's just a question of, do you have to move around the board a little bit to make sure that you get guys that you feel can contribute right away? Interior offensive line, you should be able to do that in the third, fourth round. Receiver, you might have to get a little bit more creative to make sure you get a guy in this year's draft.
All right, we got TJ Sanders. See, it's great when Buckets.
Penders.
Well, I mean, he says
I'm going through the Rolodex.
He says it in my ear like I could definitely hear him, and he just drops in Buckets. You know I don't listen
the last
very
2
well.
days combined, and I'm thinking TJ Penders. Who is TJ? What
Tom
am I
Penders'
on?
kid. Tom Penders from Texas, former curly-haired
There's
Texas
one of those
coach.
deep class of defensive tackles, good athletes that would have been fits here in New England off the board. There you go.
Did you just say 5 or 6 more minutes, Buckets?
We could go 5 or 6
Why?
more minutes. We're fine.
Why?
We're fine. The people want it. We got numbers, I'm sure.
How many people are out there?
We probably got all kinds of numbers. I don't even want to know. It's going to blow my mind. We've got so
7,000?
7,000 is a pretty good number, Tom.
20,000.
Tom, we can't go anywhere.
All right, we're sticking.
We're sleeping here.
Yeah, it's 1,000
Let's keep
people.
the people with us.
Imagine if there were 1,000 people sitting right in front of me and I said, we're done, and we're not going to give you 5 more minutes. I can't say that. Now that I know there's 1,000 of you, a lot of people still left on Phil's best available.
A lot of the best available. What does that say about my best available? Now, listen, when I put this together, it's
But
with
you
the
had Patriots needs in mind, Phil,
It is
okay?
with the Patriots in mind. So one receiver name that's on this list that we haven't talked about, Tom, that I think you would really like.
I love this. Yeah. Kyle Williams.
Kyle Williams. Kyle Williams is so dynamic after the catch. He gives you something that Jalen Noel doesn't in that regard. In terms of your yak, and I know you're a big fan of yak, TC, Kyle Williams is the guy. Among the leaders in the country, draft class or not, he was right there in terms of over 8 yards after the catch per catch. So that to me is somebody you could use really creatively. He's about 5'10", 5'11". He's a shade under 200 pounds. Again, he's not the biggest guy in the world. He's not Jaden Higgins. You missed out on your 6'4" receiver. There are a couple guys later, Dante Thornton. Maybe you're getting bad flashbacks, some negative flashbacks when you hear the name Thornton at receiver and you talk about a tall, skinny guy who runs really fast. That's Dante Thornton out of Tennessee. He's probably going to go a little bit later. But that's the kind of guy you could get later if you want a bigger-bodied player. If you're okay with an undersized, quote-unquote, wide receiver, like a Noel, like a Kyle Williams, those guys could be available to them when they pick next, and you can get a little bit more juice into this offense. Kyle Williams, Tom, there's tape of Kyle Williams beating Travis Hunter down the field. And one of the knocks on his game, I can tell you from talking to offensive coaches in this league, one of the knocks on his game was, is he going to be able to run all the routes that we would want him to? Because of his size, we might like to play him inside. Can he run those routes that we would need him to run out of the slot? Can he run those option routes? Can he run those juke routes? Can he run over the middle in the short area and make people miss? Or is he more of a straight line speed kind of guy? He ran a 4.40 40-yard dash. He's an excellent athlete. Well, then he went to the Senior Bowl. And this guy put on a route running clinic at the Senior Bowl that I think really opened eyes of NFL evaluators. So then your imagination starts to run wild. Okay, now we have a player who we might be able to play outside as a traditional X and just let him run down the field on those 9 routes or run those big backside dig types of routes where he's crossing the middle of the field at 12, 15, 18 yards. You could also use him inside, and you could allow him to shake himself free and really create some separation with what looks like a really impressive physical skill set to run real routes.
The Jets have taken son of Jason Taylor, Mason Taylor, the tight end out of LSU. So he is going to go to the Jets. I actually was smart enough now to have some interaction with you people, called up the YouTube chat. So what I'd love from you guys, if you can really just, for a minute or two, just bang out, what position would you like to see addressed next? What position would you like to see addressed next? Hit me with that. I also saw, as I was scrolling through, because you guys are good guys, you threw some threw in some comments. One was that Travion Henderson is 100 times better than Kevin Falk ever was.
Oh, boy.
My God. One time, Google Kevin Falk. So we got, what was it, undrafted player? Yeah, see, Kevin Falk was an absolute menace in the SEC, and he was also, early on, a menace for the Patriots because he fumbled nonstop until he fixed it, and then he became a tremendous player and culture leader. Actually, he was kind of a dink in the early portion of his career here, and then he became one of the best guys in that locker room. So I'm scrolling down. Let's see what you guys have to say. Phil, you keep
I'm applauding you for just. I'm going to applaud you for just pushing past that Kevin Falk slander because you are the president of the Kevin Falk fan club.
All right.
Nobody's a bigger Kevin Falk guy than you.
Let me just roll through a little bit here. We got a lot of folks weighing in. All you guys are weighing in. God bless you. Tyler says interior offensive line. Probably not going to happen. David Cole and Josh say wide receiver. Jesse Staley wants a wide out. Everybody knows the Patriots need a wide out. Or the best player on the board, says Scotty F. Williams and Knowles still out there. Phil just talked about Kyle Williams. Let's throw up, if we could, buckets, some of that Kyle Williams video I think we have. While we wait for that, Ted Tucholsky says he wants round 3 tight end Elijah Arroyo.
Ooh.
Or OG, Tate Ratledge.
Oh, yeah.
Or Ozzie Trapillo. So we're all the way over with wide X receiver. Little Nugs wants an X receiver. We got,
shout out Little Nugs.
Yep. I want Jalen Green. Mondre teases what. Now I'm gonna get myself involved in
Green.
In
Maybe he means Mike
now
Green.
I'm involved in the crosstalk that's been going on between
there's
guys.
A lot there. Maybe
They're
just pick one or two
other.
comments and we'll react. I would say here's an interesting question, Tom. Mike Green.
I showed the initiative to go here. Don't yell at me for not doing it.
I'm so happy that you did. I feel like you yelling at Albert Breer during our On the Clock special when he's tipping picks and he's just shouting things out. And
he doesn't even shout them; he just mutters it. Here's the great thing about Albert in the live show, and I actually have an idea for next year. Albert, when we're doing the live show and he always gets the picks, I'm going to give him a little flag that says "pick is in," and he just raises it.
I love that idea. That's a tremendous idea.
He's going to just raise it because what Albert does right now, and the Kyle Williams is coming up. Here's what Albert does right now. It's Will Campbell. Here's my Kyle Williams.
There's your Kyle Williams. Look at it, just running past people down the field. And I know, he's Washington State, so he's playing teams like New Mexico. I don't know who this is. This looks like it could be Syracuse. And he's just outrunning everybody on the field. But this is part of his skill set, is the after the catch stuff, which is really, really impressive. So the hands could use a little bit of work. The route running, again, was a critique, but it looked like he really improved it by the time he got to Mobile, Alabama. So maybe it was just the ways they were using him or choosing to use him at Washington State that made him look like sort of a limited route runner, Tom. But I look at a player like that, and that would make a lot of sense in the third round if he's still there. If you want to wait a little bit later, I mentioned Dante Thornton from Tennessee earlier. That guy's 6'5", 205 pounds, ran a 4.30 40. That is blinding speed. Keandre Lambert-Smith is another one who's probably a day 3 type of receiver, but to me has one of the most fascinating physical skill sets at the position in this year's class. Because I know you know how important these short shuttle times and the 3-cone times have been to the Patriots over the years and what those indicate in terms of short area quickness. This guy's 6'1", 190 pounds, so he's thin, but he's long. He ran a 4.37, okay. Nothing out of the ordinary there necessarily. Really, really fast. Tall, skinny guy who's really, really fast. Great. Tom, he ran a 3.98 short shuttle. A sub-4-second short shuttle is elite territory, and you just don't see guys that are 6'1" run those kinds of times. You might occasionally get a Deion Branch or Julian Edelman. Both those guys ran sub-4-second short shuttles, and we know what they were in terms of their short area quickness. Picture somebody who's 6'1" with similar sorts of stop and start types of abilities and movement skills, and that's Keandre Lambert-Smith out of Auburn. Now, he didn't run a ton of routes at Auburn, and he wasn't uber productive at Auburn, but an explosive play threat that you would think physically can handle a lot of that stop and start stuff that he might be asked to do by Josh McDaniels if he's the Patriots pick in the 4th, maybe 5th round.
Who's the best X out there right now? We're getting close to wrapping it up here. Again, thanks for all the feedback. I'm watching it right here. Appreciate you guys being there.
To me, it's Trey Harris from Ole Miss. He's one of the most efficient receivers in this year's draft class. Explosive production for Lane Kiffin in that Ole Miss offense, playing with Jackson Dart. A lot of play action, deep shots way down the field. And he is somebody who, Tom, is not extremely sudden, but he's a bigger body at 6'2", 205 pounds. He ran just a 4.54, so he is not blinding in terms of his speed. And I know that's how scouts feel. And I know when scouts look at the Patriots, they say, that team is good on slow receivers. And they don't look at Trey Harris as a blinding speed kind of guy, even though he was a deep threat at Ole Miss. They don't look at Jack Betch from TCU as a good enough athlete to really upgrade what the Patriots have athletically in terms of their speed. That's why we talk about Jalen Knoll. That's why we talk about Kyle Williams. Why I talk about those 2 bigger body guys, Keandre Lambert-Smith and Dante Thornton. Juice. Those guys have real speed to give the Patriots something they don't have.
All right. We're going to put a lid on this, put a cork in it, wrap it up. And we appreciate you guys all joining us. This was really fun. This was just a lot of fun. I got to perfect a way to look at the chat so that I'm not seeing just conversations between you guys and also getting some questions, but I'll do better at that. Additionally, make sure you catch us after Celtics coverage for our On the Draft special. We'll have Albert Breer, the Oracle. He will join us alongside the Senator. We'll have both those guys. By then, there will be no need for the pick is in flag for Albert, so we're good to go on that. But thank you guys so much for joining us. It's a lot of fun, and we will see you in a couple hours. Enjoy the Celtics and the draft. You want to watch it.